Good afternoon and welcome to One Thing Tech. Happy Good Friday, everybody. I am so happy that you guys are joining us here today. We're going to keep this brief today to respect your time and so you can spend this great weekend with your loved ones as much as you can. We are talking today about virtual open houses. Now, I'm going to take a little bit different spin on this because we are in the midst of developing best practices for virtual open houses. There is really no telling at this point how it's going to look 10 days from now, even in a month or 2 months. By this time next year, we could have very different best practices. But what I would like to show you is how you can spend less time working to get better results on the back end. We are used to taking, for a 2-hour open house, we'll take 4 hours out of our day for setup, for breakdown, for follow-up after the fact. Now, if you can spend instead 30 minutes to an hour recording a video or a 3D walkthrough and then uploading it for everybody to see, what would that look like and how much would that protect your time instead? So the very first thing I want to do is point to your attention where you can drop a virtual link. And then we're going to talk briefly about how to do your walkthrough for a virtual open house. And then also we're going to look at some equipment that you can use. You could very well just use your cell phone, but if you're going to use your cell phone in addition to some other pieces, what are the pieces that you want to start looking at? So I'm going to share my screen here so you guys can see. I am in Netris. Now, those of you in Memphis or in New Mexico, this is going to look a little bit different for you. I don't have access to your MLS, so I can't show you exactly how to do that. What I can show you, though, is if we're editing a listing of ours and we go to virtual tours right here, this is where you're going to put it. Now, you have a virtual tour automatically in North Texas for Property Panorama. They simply take the photos that are uploaded to the listing and they put it in an environment where people can click through, and they call it a virtual tour. Not a big fan of it as a virtual tour. It is no different than just viewing the photos on your website or on Realtor.com or Zillow or in the MLS itself. So the very first thing that I do is actually just remove that entirely. This right here is where you will drop your virtual tour. Now understand, you cannot just drop anything in there. There is a list of approved approved URLs for this. So if you have a Matterport, a lot of your photographers that you use will have approved URLs as well. There are only a handful that you can upload. It cannot just be anything. As it says here, do not put HTTP in there. You'll just put whatever follows. So just the www, or if you have, so in this case, I use like 2125.texassold'em.com, and I would just put that in there very simply. To check, you can look at approved URLs, Netris virtual tour, and you'll get a list of different URLs that are approved. So if you're looking for a photographer that can put it up there for you, these are the different websites that are approved. Now there's a few different lists. You'll want to look for the most recent one. But here's the thing. You don't have to put it in with an approved URL. This is the part that's going to go public. And so if you want to put something up that is accessible for any agent to be able to show their client, you can drop any of the hyperlinks down here. Now these hyperlinks will show up to other agents. They just will not show up to the public. They're not going to push out to Realtor.com. If you are using a photographer to do a Matterport scan, a 3D open house essentially, there is an ability, and I would follow up with your photographer to make sure they're doing this. They can turn it on so it pushes out to Realtor.com automatically. And it looks pretty nice when you see it. I'll pull this up real briefly. When you look at your listing online, it will show right here, VR Tour. The link populates automatically. Now this is not automatic for every Matterport scan. Your photographer must do this themselves. But the beautiful thing about this is that you can encourage somebody to walk through the entire space. Most of you see Matterport, so we won't go into that. So where's the best place to house your videos to be able to send them out? I would highly recommend, instead of sending somebody an entire video file, you can upload to YouTube, and it's very easy. You all have a YouTube account, and it's up to you. When you go to actually upload a video, you'll just be logged into your Google account. You go to youtube.com and you can click the create button. You can upload any video you want. When it's processing, after you title it, it's going to ask you if you want it to make it public, unlisted, or private. So here's the cool thing. You may not want it to be public. If it's a video that you've done just for one individual, or if you have concerns over how permissible is it to launch it everywhere, you can mark it as unlisted, and then anybody that you share the link with directly is going to be able to see it. But it's not going to show up on the YouTube website. No one will be able to search it. If you want it, if it has private information, if it's just a video between you and your client and you want to keep it that way, you can make it as private, and then you'll have to give them permission when they try to access it for the first time. They'll need to sign in through their Google account to view it as well. Very briefly, what questions do you guys have about this is, I want to delete this one. What questions do you guys have about uploading videos at this point? Whether it's uploading this virtual tour here or uploading to YouTube? None? Okay, perfect. So let's move on. So I'm going to take a moment to look at some equipment because I think that this is really important. You can take just your cell phone and just do a walkthrough for folks. But I firmly believe that if we take a little bit more time in filming the video in the first place, that it's something that can live on forever and ever and ever. If you walk through the house really, really well once, you can share that same piece. And then here's the nice thing. If we film a really nice video and we have a YouTube link for it, or if we've uploaded that video to Facebook and it lives there, a full walkthrough, then we can follow up after an event or during an event, and we can actually host a live video and walk people through the highlights. The great thing about this is if you could do a 30-second, 60-second, maybe a 5-minute highlight video where you're just talking about the homes, the home's features, and answering people's questions as hosting a virtual open house, and then point them to the full walkthrough so they can see it over and over and over again. Pause it in certain rooms. So let's look at some equipment, and then we'll talk about what we can do. First of all, if you want to get into doing your own 3D stuff, you'll need a 3D camera. There are a lot of options out there, and you don't need to spend more than about $100. This right here is a Samsung Gear 360. It's just a little bubble camera, and it doesn't, I've got these all on tripods so they can sit here, but it's just this piece right here, and it comes with a little ring. And so if you want to set this on
share your screen.
Oh, that's a, thank you, Tico. You guys probably want to see the video. All right, so it comes with a little ring where you can set it on and you can put it just about anywhere. The great thing about this camera, the Samsung Gear 360, is you can do live videos in 3D. If you check out my Facebook page, you'll see where I've hosted a virtual open house, and you can make it an event, you can make it informational, you can talk with people about whatever you'd like. And if you're using a 3D camera in the mix, they can listen to you, and they can use their mouse or their phone, and they can actually look around at the entire room. It gives you the ability to walk through the entire thing and give them a proper tour where they can look at something that isn't necessarily exactly where you're pointing. Gives them a feeling that they're more there in the space with you. This is relatively cost effective. They range in price, folks, but you can expect to spend probably $200 to $300 on a really good camera of this sort that is going to live stream really well. This will connect with Facebook. It'll connect with YouTube Live, Instagram. You can go live just about anywhere you want. All this needs is just a phone that's compatible with it, and there are different ones for different. Ideal length for virtual open house video, Victoria asks. That's a really good question. Again, I think that's one of those best practice pieces that we're still going to learn. My advice would be this. If you have a video that is static, it is a one-time walkthrough, a detailed walkthrough of every single room, whether that is with a 360 camera or if it's just your cell phone camera, that video only needs to be 2 to 5 minutes long at the most. You can get through the entire home in about 5 minutes or less, and I would keep it at that because people can go and rewind and pause it and see any parts of those rooms that they want. As for a virtual open house, this would be the event that we would host, and we would actually talk to people about it. I think that we could probably do this right after filming the video and uploading it online. And then the virtual open house, we want to let it breathe a little bit. I would say a minimum of 5 minutes. I think that you can host a virtual open house event, a live video for 30 minutes plus and actually get some interaction. If it's your first one, then you may want to plan for a lot of informational pieces that you would share because you'll just be burning a whole bunch of time if you don't have people tuning in, asking questions and such. But I would say plan for about 10 to 15 minutes worth of content that you can share verbally and then do a walkthrough of the home. I think the walkthrough of the home can be a good 10 minutes or so. And so I think a good live event would be 20, 30 minutes plus. All right. This right here is an example of a little bit higher end. Oh, I'm knocking my stuff over, folks. This is an example of a little bit higher end 360 camera. This is a Ricoh Theta Z1. And this piece is about $1,000. This will allow you to do a full scan. And I actually do Matterport scans with this piece right here. The contrast is fantastic. The colors it brings out are comparable to a lot of DSLR cameras. So it's going to be real similar to if you've got one of the new iPhone Pros or if you've got a high-end Samsung Galaxy. This is the type of imagery that you get out of it. It'll do 4K video as well. This will stream to YouTube. You can also stream to Facebook. The problem that I have with this one in live streaming is that it requires a lot of bandwidth. Most of us don't have that option when we're out in the field. So you can either have a really, really good dedicated hotspot, but even so, streaming 4K video it's pretty cumbersome. So I don't recommend doing live video with this piece. I think something smaller like the Gear 360 is a much better choice. You won't get as crisp a video out of it, but it will, let's see, well, I put all the specs on the cameras in the chat. I'm distracting myself. Let me finish this idea. It's better video, but you can't go live. The other ones will let you go live, worse video. I will put the specs. I'm going to upload this to YouTube, and I will put the specs there. In fact, I'm going to type right here. If you go to onething.tech, you'll find the YouTube channel with all the previous trainings. That's where this video will live next week as well. And I will include links to all the cameras in the video description for this one. You'll see that these all come, I've got them all mounted on tripods as well. A good tripod should cost you no more than $150. A decent tripod that you can use should only cost you $20 to maybe $30. The great thing is most of these devices are very lightweight. And so you can get away with a $20 selfie stick just fine. You'll want to have some kind of base to it. And you'll see the base on this next one. This is actually two pieces. So this right here is made by Manfrotto, and it is a miniature tripod. The great thing about this is you can grab a cell phone mount and you can actually hold this. This is a great piece to use by itself. So Manfrotto also makes cell phone mounts that it's a tripod screw. It just attaches right there to the top. You can get ones that are much less expensive. This entire setup is going to cost you, for a really, really good one, it's going to cost you 20 to 30. For just a decent one, you can buy a little miniature tripod for maybe $5 or $10. I think it'll work just fine. Really, the difference is it made out of metal or is it made out of plastic? This one's made out of metal, but it will screw onto the bottom. Make sure if you get a selfie stick to use, or as a monopod as they're branded, make sure it's got a tripod screw at the bottom so you can attach a miniature tripod to the end of it. What you'll see at the top is this is an S-Move. This is made by, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but I think it's Zhiyun. This is an S-Move 4. I'm going to show you two examples, but this is considered a gimbal with a phone mount. So this has got a motor here, it's got a motor here, and it's got a motor here. And the intention is that it keeps your phone stable while it's attached. The reason I bring this up is because if you want something that you can create yourself and you want it to look really professional when you upload it as a virtual tour, you may consider having something that would stabilize your phone. Now you can use something with a cell phone mount where you just hold the grip and it's going to keep it stable, so you're not holding it with your shaky fingers. But the beautiful thing about these, you'll see when I turn this on. Oh, the battery's dead on this one, but that's all right. So this will actually stabilize the entire phone and keep it stable, so that when I move the handle, it doesn't move the phone. The great thing is if I'm holding it and I choose to point it down, then it's a very slow and steady movement throughout the entire thing. You'll see a lot of, I mean, basically all, you see a movie camera on a big track, they've all got stabilizers of some sort. You'll see professional photographers now will walk through with these grips and their DSLR camera will hang off the front of it. They have stabilizers as well. The gimbals, as they're called on these ones, are designed from drones. So you'd have a flying drone with a camera, and that camera, because the drone's moving around so much, it has to have, motion sensing motors that will keep that phone, that camera stable. Well, these are made for your phone. When we turn it on, you'll see, well, it looks like both the batteries are dead, folks. No, this one's alive. So I'm going to turn that off though, because I have no phone on it, so it's not stabilized. There's different benefits to the two. So the second one I showed you is the DJI Osmo Mobile. The Osmo is really great because it's got thumb controls and you can hold it still if it's on a tripod, and you can pan back and forth. So it's got like a joystick control on it, and you can move the camera around just by hitting little joysticks. The other one is a little bit better if you've got a really large phone. So this one, the S-Move, it can hold a little bit more weight, and it has a little bit more range of movement. It's a little bit easier to use if you just pick it up to use it for the very first time, and it is a little bit more feature rich. It's not quite as high quality though. So there's going to be a difference there. I imagine if I drop this 5 times, it might not work anymore. Whereas the Osmo is, it's pretty sturdy, pretty durable. Whatever you guys do as far as virtual tours are concerned, any kind of videoing you do, practice on your own home first. I would walk through, probably do it 3 times, see how it looks, find some best practices so that we can get in and out of our listings very quickly. Now, the second thing I would probably do after practicing on your own, go practice on your listing or on a vacant listing for that matter. If we do this right and we get best practices, then as buyer's agents, we're going to be able to provide a much better experience for our buyers when we first walk through, right? It'll give you the ability, especially if we're doing virtual tours through, and it doesn't matter if it's Zoom or if it's FaceTime or anything in between, if we're doing a live walkthrough for a buyer remotely, if we're used to filming our listings, then we're going to give a very smooth experience walking through. As far as the path for our video walkthroughs, I always start at the outside, at the front. We want to start at the curb, just like we would if we were seeing the house for the very, very first time. You can get a pan, kind of get an idea of what is around the home, and then swing from one side of the house so they can see down that wall all the way to the other side before you walk up the driveway or walk up the front the front steps to the door. Once you walk into the home, and I would make sure the door is unlocked and ready so that as you're holding the camera, you can just give the door just a little push and it's going to swing right open. If you sit forward and you're fumbling with a thumb press or a door turn or something, it doesn't look real good on camera, but if you just give it a little push and it swings open, it's nice. Follow a logical progression. Often we would go straight to the kitchen or to the master bedroom, but if the kitchen and the master bedroom are in the very back of the home, then we're going to have a lot of crossback if once we walk there and then we walk back to the front of the home. So my recommendation is just pick a direction, left or right. I always go left first. If you guys remember the old Windows screensaver where you've got the maze that it walks through, it always turned left or it always turned right. It never made an exception. And I would do the same thing. Turn left, go down the first hall. And if that's a bedroom, cool. If that's a laundry room, if it's a bathroom, whatever the case is. Now, if you've got a laundry room to your very left when you first walk in, then you might choose a right turn instead. Whatever it is, pick a direction and then flow through the entire house. Do a slow sweep of each room and then move quickly through the hallways. Once you get to the next room, point at one wall, do a slow sweep of the entire room and pull back, go through the next hallway. We don't need to spend a lot of time in the halls, in the entry. If there are special things at the ceiling, make sure to point up and then slowly pan down so they can see vaulted ceilings or exposed beams or upgraded lighting. Be sure to get close-ups of the flooring. When you get to the kitchen, when you get to the master bath, if there are countertops, there's nothing wrong. If you're doing it at eyesight the entire time, but then you want to take it down and get real close to the granite or the quartz top or whatever you've got, don't be afraid to give little stylistic shots. Get close to things like a farm sink. If you've got a special view out of whether it's a kitchen window or a master bedroom window, make sure when you're going through that room to pause for a moment and then to look out that window as well. You're going to want to capture both the inside and the outside in the very same video. I'm not a fan of editing videos after the fact, and I imagine you aren't either. So there are a few of you who are well-versed in editing videos. Those are the people that probably don't need to hear this message the most. You guys are used to all this. So we are just about out of time, guys. This is pretty much it. It's pretty simple. I'd say just practice, get your flow, and go for it. We've got a question. Are there hosting fees for those live 3D videos if you want to share them through YouTube to be shared later through another social media site? If you use YouTube, it's free. If you use your photographer, there may be a fee. Some photographers will charge per hosted video because they do have a certain number of 3D tours that they can have hosted at the same time. For mine, I believe it's 25. So for me, I shoot Matterport for people as well, and I don't charge an additional fee for hosting, but I know that some photographers do. Just ask, make sure you know what you're getting into, because you don't want that video to live for now, but then in 6 months when for some reason the listing is still live, or if you sold it and you want to use that video for a new prospective seller, you want that video to still be there and not taken down. You can, if you're uploading those videos to social media, they'll live on in perpetuity. I wouldn't worry about them disappearing. When you host an event, do you use a supplemental microphone or just computer? When I host an event, I'm actually using my cell phone on just about everything. The microphones on our cell phones are fantastic. I do have some audio gear. I'm not recommending that to y'all because it gets really expensive really fast for a very marginal improvement. Right in front of me, I use a microphone when I'm doing these. I use a Blue Yeti, but it's kind of cumbersome. It's large. There are some wireless lapel mics that you can look into. There are some wired lapel mics as well. But if you're looking at wireless audio, can have lag, dropout. It can have all kinds of issues. And then if you're using a cord, that can cause issues with the video itself. The video, in my opinion, is way more important than the audio. And so I recommend just use your cell phone microphones. They're just fine. Let's see. Did I decide against the Theta V when I bought a Theta Z? So I actually had the Theta Z1 for a different purpose, and I just started using it for Matterport. If I were to go and purchase one now, I would spring the extra on the Z1. The camera quality is phenomenal. I use it for still photos. It is capable of 4K video as well, but the still photos on this are awesome. There's really only one other camera, and I'm not familiar with it, so I won't recommend it. But there's only one other camera that compares when it comes to still images with the Ricoh Theta Z1. You can get a big Matterport camera. It's a couple $1,000s, depending on what kind of promotion they're running, and it takes a long time. It takes 3 to 4 times the amount of time to scan the exact same property. And you get a very, well, the detail's a little bit higher, but the color's worse. I like the coloration on the Z1. I think it's the best camera on the market for its purposes. Let's see. Any good virtual tours we can view? I'm going to drop a couple of virtual tours here in the chat if you guys want to check it out. Give me just a moment to type these out. These are all 3D tours. I can't say I'm an expert on the best way to host an event yet. And I think there are people that are doing it a lot more. And we're hearing about that. If you guys are staying tuned to the rest of the training and to people in your office, there's some really great masterminds around how to best create an open house event. And I think we're still learning there. Let's see, there was one other question. How much is a Matterport? And I'm going to spell out Matterport in case you guys need to find it. A typical scan on a reasonably sized house will be, it'll run between $200 and $350, just depending on how large the house is. For the equipment, really all you need is the camera. So you can start off with about $200 for a decent camera. For a good camera, it's going to cost you $1,000. For the Matterport camera itself, that's it's generally about $3,000, I believe. I'm not a big fan on the Matterport camera. I just think it's terribly inefficient use of time when you can get the same results out of something that's just a fraction of the price. I would much rather be scanning another home or taking another listing rather than spending 3 times the amount of time scanning one listing. Any other questions? Anything I can do for you guys at this point? We used the entire 30 minutes, folks. Happy Good Friday. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your loved ones that are close to you now. We will see you next week.
Thanks, Seth.
Awesome. Thanks, Seth. Happy Easter, everyone.
Happy Easter.
Thank you. Happy Good Friday.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.